So this is very exciting. I wasn't expecting to find this. It wasn't here yesterday when we came by. So this is orange fan jelly. Feel free to touch it. It's a very strange texture. Jelly fungi are for the most part all edible. There's some outliers, there's some exceptions here. But as you can tell, they are mostly composed of water. They're 80 to 90% water, probably leaning more towards the 90%. And so these fungi, they will only really spring up after a rain, and they have the ability to dehydrate and we picked up yesterday. It didn't look this rough. This is actually a mushroom being eaten by a mold. And so there's different molds that attack specific mushrooms. It's very common with boletes, which are mushrooms that have a stem and a cap, but they have pores on the bottom. This is, I think it was a species of Lactarius, which is a milk cap. They have latex inside. If we find one, I'll be sure to kind of cut it open so you guys can see. But there's specific molds that only latch on to specific mushrooms, and it kind of equalizes mushrooms in a way because they are decomposers, but they also become decomposed themselves, which, yeah, it's a very key component of the ecosystem, and it kind of keeps the balance of life intact, especially in the forest. A cap or stem is you want to turn it over because on the underside of that cap is going to tell you your first key information towards identifying it. The spore-bearing surface can come in usually 4 different options. There are oddball categories, but usually you either have gills, you either have pores, teeth, or you have modified gills that are called false gills. I also call them channels or ridges. They vary depending on the mushroom, but you really only have those 4 options, besides, of course, the exceptions. But starting with those 4, you can then narrow it down, and that's usually how most field guides will break up the book, is once you start looking at the spore-bearing surface and you have that checked off your checklist, you can then look at a smaller section and narrow it down from there. It can also be a good clue if you know your taxonomic groupings of like the mushroom family tree. It can clue you into what kind of family it will be grouped in. And I'll mention a couple family names as we keep going.
So this one is gills?
Yes, so this one has gills.
Lines
Right,
under
yeah.
the cap.
Exactly, yeah. So the little lines that come out from the stem and they're underneath the cap, those are all gills, and that's where the spores come out. So just like an apple tree has an apple, a mushroom is to an apple tree what the apple is. It's the fruit of the body of the fungus. It's purely for the reproduction of the mushroom itself. And so when the mushroom fruits, the spores will come out, and those are the seeds of the mushroom. They will fly through the air and then they'll land on another surface, and that's called sporulation. And so with that, the mushrooms travel, they can hybridize, and they can find new places to grow on substrate. So the spore-bearing surface will be one of the first things. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So we can pass this around. It's a little slimy, so if you don't want to get your hands covered in slime, that's totally fine by me. Do give it a smell or a whiff. It has a very strong odor. This. It's in the Gasteromycete family, which gastro means stomach, so it's a stomach fungi, which means that instead of having a spore-bearing surface on the outside or the underside of its cap and it sporulating down and using gravity, this actually has a rocket launcher inside. So it builds up the spores on the inside until an unsuspecting creature or the wind passes by and it releases those spores. And so these might be mushrooms that you found as a kid and you stomped on, and you see the spores kind of fly up, and they're super fun. Yes, so there's a couple different types of these. These ones are a little bit harder. These ones I think are actually wolf's puffballs.
You want to pass them around?
Yeah, we can pass these around.
So
Bring
you
these
just
up as
move
well.
it
go
That way.
with like.
And this is really excellent that we have them growing next to each other. We also have, actually have 3 species of fungi going on right here, so this is even better. We'll do a nice comparison. So this is turkey tail here. This is it's something that people are putting in their coffee nowadays. It's making its way into the mainstream kind of consumer market. It's well known for its anti-inflammatory benefits. It's been used in Japan as a medicinal fungus, and it's actually been isolated. Specific proteins have been isolated from this fungus and used for cancer treatment. And so they will do a prescribed treatment of both chemotherapy, but also 8 capsules of polysaccharide crestin, which is the protein from turkey tail. And I like to think that it works. It's been used since the 70s, and it's one of the most popular cancer treatments. It doesn't cure it on its own, but it does provide your body with enough anti-inflammatory benefits and antioxidants and various different vitamins and minerals, B12, riboflavin, and vitamin D, of course. And so it kind of boosts your immune system to be able to protect itself better. And it works in conjunction with chemotherapy. So these turkey tails are classic polypore. They grow in shelves, just like we've seen here. They also, when you flip them under, or flip them over, on their underside, they're gonna have little tiny pores. So I'll pass this around. They're very hard to see. We have here, this is a crust fungus. And so turkey tail has one really close look-alike called false turkey tail. And the only thing that really separates the two, besides maybe small distinctions in color or pattern, is the fact that their spore-bearing surface is completely flat. Crust fungi are also called resputinate fungi, and these fungi form flat shelving and they have no texture on the underside. Typically, crust fungi are not highly regarded as edible fungi. I haven't bothered eating them at all. In fact, they don't have a favorable texture, they don't have a favorable flavor. In fact, many of them are very woody. All different colors. You'll see purple ones, you'll see magenta, you'll see bright red. This is the type of fungus that I was saying in Asia, it's the one you don't want to touch. In Massachusetts, in all of North America, you're just fine. When they're young, and so I'll kind of hold that up. They have webbing on the underside. That isn't mold, believe it or not. And then, yeah.
What is that called?
So this is a bluet. These are good edible mushrooms. There's a couple hiding here underneath. So when you're looking for mushrooms, these are always fun to kind of look at a little bit closer.
Can you eat them?
These ones have a very close look-alike. They are edible though, believe it or not.
Green cracking. What is
Russellos.
this?
green cracking rustlers. So you can see on the top of their cap, they have these cracks that go on, the patches. That's kind of the pattern that you're going to want to look at.
I see patch.
Yes.
Oh,
cracks
kind of
here.
a crackly thing.
Yes, exactly like the crackle nail polish.